disappear. Here with a prescription to fight the mental effects of the virus and what it's done to our collective psyche, Molly Birkholm, trauma and stress management specialist. Molly has worked with the National Institutes of Health and the Department of Defense. She is also the professor of the, quote, lessons from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, available at greatcourses.com. Also joining us, psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Bober. Dr. Bober is also a former mental health policy fellow at the U.S. Senate through the American Psychiatric Association. Welcome. Those are some welcome, gang. It's good to have you here. So, Dr. Bober, let's start with you. Is PTSD real? I mean, I understand if you lose a loved one from PTSD, but all of us being stuck at home, are we really going to claim that it's PTSD is getting the best of us?
Well, PTSD is probably the right term for it, right? So it's not just witnessing people dying, but it's also the financial stressors that come along with it. So this is really traumatic for a lot of people. And whatever label you want to put on it, PTSD, acute stress, people are suffering out there, and this thing doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon.
All right, so I look at stress as everybody's got to go through it. The one great thing about traumatic events is they always have an end, beginning, middle, and an end, and they always do end, and I think people need to take that into account. But Dr. Birkholm, I have friends that fought in wars, Afghanistan, Iraq. They watch men die. They come home with PTSD. I don't want to limit their effects of PTSD by somehow lumping in giant masses of Americans who are simply just stressed out.
Well, to be perfectly honest, the effects that create PTSD, oftentimes when people find themselves in the midst of it, it's not that they even know that they are. So it's important people know that experiencing things like hypervigilance, depression, anxiety, sleeplessness, all of these things can be symptoms of post-traumatic stress. And if people are suffering, their suffering is real for them, whether or not we as a society or an outside perspective want to say it's real or not. It's real for the person who's experiencing it. And so we really need to honor that people need to feel what they're feeling and also have tools and resources available to them to work with it. And that's a lot of what we do with the military. I've been working with the military for 13 years now, bringing tools like yoga, meditation. You can also do things like prayer, going for a walk. Being together in community is really important for processing stressful circumstances. Things don't have to become post-traumatic stress disorder. Things can just stay in the realm of stress because stress is our response to a situation. So when we're able to be proactive with stress by doing things like talking about it, sharing our feelings, sharing what's going on, also preparing ourselves for stress, thinking about how we're going to handle it, creating an internal sense of safety. These are all things that can help shepherd us through circumstances. And so, it's really important to not just look at, okay, yes, of course, veterans, those are the main people that I work with. Of course, when they come back from where they have trauma, but many other people get it as well. In fact, it's estimated
so I think hearing you talk about all of this, I think I'm getting PTSD. My mother has a doctorate in psychology, and so this is exactly what she told me growing up. And maybe that's why I got pushed to the other side of saying, Mom, come on. I'm just going to get through this. I'm going to plow through it. I'm going to be strong about it. But in the end, Dr. Bober, I understand it is important to talk to somebody about it. Does it have to be a psychologist, or can it be your best friend?
Well, it all depends on the situation, right? If you're having symptoms that are clinically significant, then you may need a mental health professional. But don't forget about the first responders and the people on the front line who go to work every day essentially feeling like they're on a suicide mission the second they set foot in the hospital. I mean, these doctors, these ICU doctors, these nurses, these respiratory therapists, even the secretaries, a lot of times they feel totally defeated. Their souls are crushed. Their spirits are broken, and they feel outgunned and under-equipped. So these are people that are suffering every day and may need professional help.
All right, Dr. Birkholm, what do you tell the first responders specifically? How do you deal with it? You come home. I heard stories from police officers. The wives would love to hear the Velcro of the vest being ripped off because they know their loved one's safe. These folks are coming back into the house. They've got to decompress with their family members. How do you tell them to cope?
Well, one of the most important things is to remember that sometimes just some really simple decompression time is great. Just to sit quietly, do something that feels good to you. But let's remember, too, that over history, we can look back to the tribal cultures like Native Americans, our cultures now, the veterans community. Being in community is one of the most important things. So doing things that feel joyful, calming, safe together, like playing games. My son and I, every night after we do dishes, are having a dance party now. That might sound silly, but it's also a way to process stress, to move the body, to listen to music, to hear rhythms, to be together. Touch is very important for people to process trauma. It's also really important to give people a chance to talk about it. And one of the things we're finding with bilateral stimulation in the brain is if you go for a walk while you're talking about something, it can really support you in processing the information that you're working with in the stressful circumstances. So giving people space to really feels important.
All very, very good advice. And I do all of those things, including dance parties with my kids and working out and talking about stuff. That I learned from my mom. Talking about things is very, very important. Molly Birkholm, Dr. Daniel Bobber, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure having you.